it never begins with fire. It begins with warmth, smiles, promises that you belong. They tell you you're chosen, that you see the world differently, and by the time you realize what they've taken from you, it's already too late. I wore their uniform. I spoke their words. I watched the silence swallow those who doubted, and when they turned on me, I ran. Through smoke, through screams, through the sound of bodies breaking in the dark. I survived, but survival is not peace. Their faces still follow me, their voices still whisper, and the question that haunts me is simple. Did I escape them, or did I carry them with me? If stories like this hold you, let them stay with you. Let them spread. Subscribe so you don't miss the next descent into the shadows. And tell me, if it were you, standing there with the cup at your lips, would you drink, or would you shatter it? I thought moving there would be a fresh start. It was just me and my 2 kids. Marcus was 12, Naomi 9. Their mother had been gone for years, and I told myself they deserved someplace quieter, safer. Ashwood Pines looked perfect on paper. Tree-lined streets, big yards, houses that all looked like they'd been pressed from the same mold. I told myself it was the kind of place where kids could ride their bikes until the streetlights came on, where neighbors waved from their porches, where maybe I could finally breathe. The first morning, I left them at the house while I went to work. Kissed their foreheads, told them to lock the door, promised I'd be back before dark. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was Marcus. His voice was low, shaky. "Dad, the neighbors are watching us funny." I laughed it off, told him, "New place, new faces. People are just curious." But even as I said it, something in my gut twisted. When I pulled into the driveway, I felt it. Eyes. Every porch light was on. Curtains shifted as I walked to my door. Faces lingered in the shadows, pale, expressionless. They didn't wave. They didn't smile. They just stared. I told myself it was nerves, that I was imagining it, but the longer we stayed, the harder it was to ignore. At the grocery store, conversation stopped the moment I walked in. At the gas station, men in work boots stood 2 posts, their eyes crawled over me like insects, and then the sightings. Late at night, I'd see them, figures at the edge of our yard, perfectly still, watching. When I stepped outside, they vanished into the dark. Naomi woke me once, whispering that someone had been tapping on her window. I told her it was branches, just branches, but when I checked, the trees were too far away. The breaking point came a week later. I came home late from work. The kids were asleep upstairs. The house was quiet. And then I heard it. A low hum. Voices, chanting, carried on the wind. I stepped outside, down the street. At the clearing beyond the cul-de-sac, flames licked the sky. A cross burned there, tall, furious. Figures in robes circled it, their voices rising together, steady, unbroken. And then I saw it. A crude wooden altar, chains catching the firelight. My stomach turned to ice. That's when I understood. It wasn't just hate, it wasn't just the Sierras. They were planning something. A sacrifice. And I was the offering. I ran back inside. Locked every door, every window. My hand, they shook as I shook Marcus awake. Then Naomi. "We're leaving," I whispered. "Now." They didn't ask questions, they didn't need to. They saw it, the fear in my eyes. We slipped out the back, into the woods. The chanting followed us, louder now, carried on the wind. Firelight flickered through the trees, but they knew. They were waiting. Figures stepped out of the darkness, blocking the path, torches in their hands, hoods glowing orange in the firelight. I grabbed a fallen branch, held it like a weapon. My kids clung to me, their eyes wide, their breaths quick. "Run!" I told them. My voice steady, though everything inside me was breaking. No matter what happens, you run. The first man lunged. I swung the branch, cracked it across his face. He went down screaming. Another reached for Naomi. I shoved him back, roared like something cornered, something feral. We broke through the line, sprinting into the trees. Branches tore at our skins, roots clawed at our feet. Behind us, the mob gave chase, their chants twisting into howls. We stumbled onto the road. Headlights blinded me. A truck screeched to a stop. For a moment, hope flared. Then I saw the driver. A hood on the seat beside him. His grin wide, teeth yellow in the light. I yanked the kids back just as the truck lurched forward, trying to cut us off. We dove into the ditch, rolled, scrambled back into the woods. I don't remember how long we ran. Minutes, hours, time lost all meaning. At last, we reached the highway. Cars tore past us, one after another, their headlights blinding, their engines indifferent. I waved, screamed, begged, and then one slowed. A minivan. A woman stared at us, her eyes wide, taking in the blood, the dirt, the terror written across our faces. Please, I begged. My voice was broken, raw. Just drive. She did. We never went back. I don't say the name of that neighborhood anymore. I don't let my kids either. We left everything behind. Clothes, furniture, photographs, all of it. Sometimes late at night, I still hear it. The chanting, the crackle of fire, the sound of gravel under tires. And I wonder how close they came. How close we came to never leaving at all. Gravel. I can still hear it. Each crack beneath the tires as we crept along that winding drive. The treach tone with a slow, haunting delivery. The gravel. I can still hear it. Each crack beneath the tires as we crept along that winding drive. The trees leaned in from both sides, their branches scraping, clawing, like something that wanted us to turn back. I looked at Marissa. Almost a year together then. Her hair caught the last of the light, burning against the dusk. She smiled at me. That smile, the one that made me believe I could trust her. She said, quiet, steady. You'll love them, they're traditional. Once they know you, it'll be fine. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. Her words stayed with me, like smoke that clings to your clothes long after the fire's gone. Traditional. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that love could bulldoze through history, through prejudice, through the quiet stares I'd already felt when we walked hand in hand. And then the house appeared, rising out of the trees like some relic that refused to die. White columns, a porch that wrapped around it like a warning. It looked preserved, embalmed almost in amber. My stomach tightened. Inside the air was thick, wood polish, yes, but beneath it, something sharper, metallic, like blood you can't quite place. They greeted me with smiles and never touched their eyes. Her father's hand clamped down on mine, too firm, deliberate, like he was measuring me. Her mother's gaze lingered, unblinking. Her lips pressed into a line so thin it felt like a blade. At dinner, the words were polite, but they cut. Questions about my job, my family, my background. Each one felt like a probe, sharp, deliberate, like someone peeling me open with a scalpel. I laughed when I could. I answered carefully, but under the table my palms were wet, slick with sweat I couldn't wipe away. And then the first crack. Her uncle, broad, red-faced, lifted his glass. His voice carried across the table. To keeping the bloodline strong. The crystal rang as they clinked their glasses. All of them. Everyone except me. I forced a smile. My voice came out thinner than I wanted. What do you mean by that? The table froze. No one moved. Its grin spread wider, teeth bared. Too many, too sharp. Oh, you'll see. After dinner, she led me upstairs. Said she wanted to show me the family history room. The walls were lined with photographs, sepia faces, rigid, unsmiling. Generations of pale men and women staring down at me like judges, but it was the far wall that stopped me cold. Robes. White robes, hoods, crosses, burning in the background of grainy black and white frames. My throat closed. I managed to whisper, "Marissa, what is this?" She didn't answer right away, just watched me, her face unreadable, and then quiet, steady, "It's who we are." The words struck like a hammer. "You knew?" My voice cracked. She stepped closer, eyes catching the dim light, sharp, glinting. "I wanted you to meet them first, to see if you could belong." Belong, and the word twisted inside me, how violent, and then I heard it, the shuffle of feet in the hallway. I turned. Her father stood in the doorway, 2 men at his side. They were holding ropes. I ran. The house twisted into a maze around me. Every hallway stretched longer than it should, every door slammed shut, just as my hand reached for it. My heart was pounding loud, relentless, like a war drum I couldn't silence. Behind me, the voices rose, low and unified, chants that felt older than language, older than me. I stumbled into the parlor. The furniture was gone, shoved aside, and in the center, a cross. Wooden, taller than a man, wrapped in rags that stank of kerosene. They were waiting, dozens of them, hooded, robed, torchlight flickered across their faces, carving them into something monstrous, something less than human. And then Marissa stepped forward, No hood, no robe, just her smiling that same smile that once made me believe I was safe. You could have been part of something eternal, she whispered. But you don't understand tradition. Her father raised a torch, his voice steady, cold. Blood must be purified. The adrenaline, it took over. I remember grabbing a chair, swinging it down until it splintered. The broken leg was in my hand before I even thought about it. Suddenly, it was a weapon. They came at me all at once. I fought like something, cornered like survival was the only thing left. The first man dropped when the wood connected with his skull. Another grabbed from behind. I turned, drove the jagged edge into him. There was heat on my arm, screams breaking through the chanting, the room unraveling into chaos, and then the cross caught. Flames roared upward, smoke filling my lungs, shadows twisting across the walls like demons set loose. I pushed through them. Every strike fueled by terror, by rage. One hood slipped. It was her uncle. His face twisted, shocked just before I forced him back into the fire. The sound of him screaming, it was gone almost as soon as it began, swallowed by the crackle of burning wood. I turned and ran again, deeper into the woods. Engines roared behind me, closing in. My body begged to stop, every muscle screaming, but survival was louder. At last I reached the river. A moonlight cut across its surface, cold, merciless. Behind me the mob pressed closer, their torches a wall of fire. There was no choice. I dove. The water swallowed me whole, icy cores dragging me under. I kicked, fought, lungs burning, the roar of the river drowning out everything else. Above me the torches flickered, faint, like dying stars. When I surfaced, I was far downstream. The forest was silent. No torches, no chance. Only the sound of my own ragged breathing. I crawled onto the bank, collapsed in the mud, stared up at the sky. I was alive, for now. But I knew the truth, they would never stop. Not as long as I lived. And Marissa's smile. That smile will haunt me forever. I never thought silence could be so loud. That's what stays with me. The silence before the van door slammed, before the blindfold pressed down against my eyes, before everything I knew was gone. The night they took me, I was just walking home. Ordinary, forgettable. And then a hand over my mouth, the sharp burn of something chemical on a rag, and then nothing. When I came back, my wrists were tied. My skull felt like it was splitting, the air thick, choking, gasoline and pine. The van jolted over rough ground, every bump rattling through my bones. No one spoke, not once. Only the low, steady hum of the engine, and my heartbeat pounding, uneven, like it was trying to warn me of something they couldn't understand. The van finally stopped. They dragged me out. My feet sank into damp moss, cold, wet. The blindfold slipped, just enough for me to see them. Redwoods, towering, endless like pillars holding up the night itself. There were torches, flickering, shadows bending, the air thick with smoke and something sharper, metallic. I knew what it was, but I couldn't admit it then. They marched me into a clearing. At the center, a bonfire. Flames twisting, writhing into shapes I still see when I close my eyes. Around it, figures in robes, faces hidden behind wooden masks. Grins carved too wide, eyes hollow. They didn't speak, not a word. Just that sound, a hum, low, relentless, crawling under my skin till I thought it would split me open. And then, shoved into a cell, logs lashed together, crude, splintered, the door slammed, the dirt beneath me, a bucket in the corner. That was day one. The first week, it blurred together. Hunger, confusion. They gave me scraps, stale bread that tasted of ash, water in a rusted tin cup. Never enough. At night, the chanting would start, low at first, then building until it filled the clearing, drums pounding like a second heartbeat. I couldn't escape, and sometimes the rhythm broke. Screams, human, real. I pressed my ear to the cracks in the wood, trying to make sense of it. Once, I saw them drag a man past my cell, his eyes wide, mouth gagged, body thrashing. They carried him toward the fire. I never saw him again. Every time I closed my eyes, the screams returned closer, sharper. My body ached from the cold, my wrists burned, raw from the ropes. So I whispered to myself, just to remember what a human voice sounded like. On the 10th night, they came for me. 2 masked figures, the lock turning, the door opening, hands on my arms, dragging me out into the clearing. The bonfire was higher than before, sparks clawing at the sky like they wanted to escape. Beside it, an altar, rough wood, stained dark. They forced me down, kneeling, my knees sinking into the dirt. The chanting rose, low voices swelling, folding into each other until it became one monstrous sound. And then, the blade. It caught the firelight for a moment. I thought it was meant for me. My body shook so hard I could barely stay upright. I almost collapsed. But it wasn't me. They dragged someone else forward, another prisoner. Bound, gagged, his feet barely touching the ground as they pulled him to the altar. I remember the wood, rough, stained dark. They laid him down and then the blade came down fast. His scream cut short, replaced by that sound. Wet, heavy, blood spilling onto wood. I couldn't look away, couldn't move. The firelight caught the masks, made their calf smiles thicker, twist, live, watching. When it was over, they shoved me back into the cell. My knees were slick, blood that wasn't mine. That night, didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it again. The blade catching the firelight. The way his body jerked once, and then went still. By the 3rd week, I was starving, delirious. My ribs jutted out, my lips split dry. I found a stone, sharp, half buried in the dirt. I started scraping at the lock. Night after night. While the chanting rose outside, I worked at it, my hands bleeding, skin torn. But I kept going. On the 18th day, they found it, the stone. The beating came fast, merciless. Branches cracking against my ribs until I couldn't breathe, until I folded in on myself. They left me there, curled on the floor, coughing blood. The next 3 days were only darkness. No food, no water. Just the sound of my own breathing, ragged, uneven, and the hum of voices, distant, constant. I thought that was it, that I would die there, nameless, forgotten. The rain came on the 22nd day. It slipped through the cracks in the roof, dripping into the dirt. I pressed my mouth to the ground, drinking mud, just to stay alive. The rituals, they grew louder, more frenzied, and in the silence between them, I started to hear whispers, voices that weren't there. Sometimes I thought I saw faces in the wood grain, eyes staring back at me, mouths moving, but no sound. Just screams I couldn't hear. On the 30th day, I woke to a note, shoved under the door. The handwriting, jagged, desperate. Keep quiet, don't resist. Beneath it, a scrap of cloth, soaked in something dark. Blood. I never knew who left it. On the 32nd night, I heard it. A whisper through the wall, another prisoner. His voice hoarse, broken, but human. You spoke in fragments, pieces of memory, pieces of hope. He told me about a tunnel, dug years ago, hidden beneath the roots of one of the redwoods. If we could reach it, we could escape. For 4 nights, we whispered plans. Quiet, careful. It was the only thing keeping me sane. On the 36th day, his voice was gone. I pressed my ear to the wall, called for him. Nothing. Later, I saw them drag his body past my cell, limp, broken. Hope died with him. Desperation, it breeds madness. I found a shard of metal in the dirt, maybe from the altar, maybe from some tool they'd forgotten, I don't know. I hid it in my sleeve, and I started working at the lock again. My hands bled, nails split, skin torn, but I didn't stop. Couldn't. Outside, the chanting grew harsher, louder, violent, and through it, I heard them speak of something else. Final ritual, one that would end with fire. I knew then my time was running out. On the 41st night, chaos broke loose. The ritual, it went wrong. I heard screams, not from us. The masked ones, torches, falling, robes catching fire, the grove filling with smoke and panic. One of them dropped a ring of keys right outside my cell. My hands shook so badly I could barely reach through the bars. Dragged them closer. The lock clicked, and for the first time in 41 days, I stepped outside. The forest was burning, flames climbing the trees, sparks raining down, figures running in every direction. Their masks melting, their screams high, broken, almost animal. I stumbled through it, coughing, eyes stinging, blind in the smoke. For 2 days, I wandered the woods. No food, no water, only the memory of fire behind me. I thought I would die there. Another ghost, swallowed by the redwoods. At dawn, on the 44th day, I stumbled onto a dirt road. My clothes soaked in blood and ash, my body broken. I collapsed to the roadside. Couldn't move. A hiker found me, his face blurred in my vision, his voice distant, fading in and out. I remember him calling for help, his hands shaking as he tried to lift me. They took me to a hospital, and reporters came, asking questions I couldn't answer. They told me the grove had burned, that nothing was left but ash and charred wood. No bodies. None. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard, and I know that somewhere, behind the masks, behind the fire, something still waits. It's been months since I left the grove. But the 44 days, they never left me. I can't stand the smell of smoke. I can't walk through the woods without feeling highs on me. At night, I wake to the sound of chanting, low, insistent, echoing in my skull. People tell me I survived, but survival, it isn't the same as living. Part of me is still there, kneeling before the fire, waiting for the blade to fall. And sometimes, when the wind moves through the trees just right, I swear I hear the hum again. It didn't start with hopes or chance. It started with loneliness. I was drifting, job gone, family fractured, nights spent staring at ceilings that never answered back. That's when I met them. They didn't call themselves anything dangerous. They said they were seekers, people who promised clarity in a world that felt like static. They spoke softly, smiled warmly, and told me I was different. They said I could see the cracks in reality, that I was chosen. And when you're that lost, when you're that tired, you start to believe them, even when something inside you whispers that you shouldn't. At first, it seemed harmless. Shared meals, quiet laughter, long talks beneath the stars. They told us we were part of something greater, something eternal. They gave me a new name, and with it they stripped away the old one. They called it freedom, but I knew deep down it was erasure. Then the rules came. No contact with the outside, no questions, no individuality. Every doubt was framed as a test, every hesitation a weakness to be purged. And when I watched someone vanish after breaking those rules, I understood. Silence wasn't just expected, it was the only way to survive. By the time I understood what I was in, it was already too late. My ID was gone, my money donated, my hair cut to match the others. They told me the comet was coming, that our bodies were cages, and soon we'd be free of them. But I wasn't like them. I wasn't a believer. I was an imposter, dressed in their uniform, mouthing words I didn't believe, waiting for the moment they would see through me. And when they finally did, that's when the escape began. It wasn't just about running. It was about clawing back pieces of myself they had already taken. A war not only against them, but against the silence and fear they had carved into me. I thought I was blending in. Same uniform, same chants, the same hollow smile stretched across my face. But his eyes, they found me. The leader called me forward, his voice thick with certainty. This one doubts. The air in the room changed. It was like the walls leaned closer, like the floor tilted beneath me. Dozens of faces turned in unison, their expressions empty, yet hungry. In that moment, I wasn't one of them anymore. I wasn't a brother. I was prey. They dragged me into the ritual hall. The walls were marked with symbols, smeared in ash, the air thick and stale. The leader lifted a chalice, dark liquid swirling inside. His words were sharp, final. Drink, ascend, or be cast out of flesh. Their hands clamped down on my wrists until the bones ached. I knew what ascend meant. I had seen the empty bunks. I'd heard the silence that followed. When the cup touched my lips, something inside me broke. I let the fear turn into defiance. I hurled it to the ground, glass exploding across the floor like scattered stars. The sound cut through the chanting. For a moment, the room froze. Then his scream tore through the stillness, and they came for me. I tore myself loose and seized the lantern from the altar. It shattered in my hands, fire spilling across the floor, flames crawling outward like they had been waiting for release. Their screams rose at once, torn between chasing me and saving what they worshipped. Smoke thickened, curling into my lungs, turning their chants into broken coughs. I ran through the corridors, every step echoing like it might be my last. Shadows stretched long behind me, footsteps pounding closer, too many to count. Fingers clawed at my clothes, nails dragging across my skin. I lashed out, kicking one away, sending them tumbling down the stairwell. The sound of the fall carried through the dark like a drumbeat of war. At the exit, he was waiting, the leader. His eyes were wild, the knife catching the light as if it had been waking for me. He lunged. I caught his wrist, the blade grazing my arm, hot and sharp. With every ounce of terror left in me, I twisted. His own weight carried him backward into the fire. His scream rose behind me, clinging to the smoke as I forced the door open. The night air struck me like baptism, cold and merciless. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Someone must have seen the flames. I ran barefoot into the city, lungs burning, the compound collapsing in smoke behind me. And even as I escaped, I knew part of me was still trapped inside. I survived, but survival is not peace. The nights are the worst. In the dark, the walls breathe with their whispers, and I feel the weight of their eyes pressing down on me. Every mirror holds their faces, pale and waiting. Every silence carries his voice, low and certain. This one doubts. I know they're gone, but it doesn't matter. They follow me in ways the living never could. I carry them in my skin, in the hollow of my chest, and I know they'll never stop hunting me, if not in flesh, then in memory. A memory's enough to break you. I joined because I was lonely. That's the truth. They called themselves the Gate. Not Heaven's Gate, not at first, just the Gate. A community of seekers, they said. People who believed in love, in unity, and leaving behind the noise of the world. When I first arrived, they opened their arms to me. Too wide. Smiles that stretched a little too far, but I didn't see it then. I told myself it was kindness. I told myself it was what I'd been missing. They all dressed the same. Simple grey robes, hair cut short. No jewellery, no makeup. They said it was to strip away ego. To peel off the layers of self until nothing was left but purity. Until we could become one. I wanted to believe them. God, I wanted to believe them. Because I was tired of being alone. Tired of carrying the weight of my health. And when they looked at me with those unblinking eyes, I thought, maybe this is family. Maybe this is where I finally belong. But even then, something in me whispered that it wasn't love I was walking into. It was something else. Something darker. The first weeks were peaceful. Or at least, that's what I told myself. We ate together at long tables, bowls of rice, vegetables, nothing more. The meals were quiet, almost ritualistic. We sang hymns that weren't hymns, just phrases repeated again and again until the words lost their shape. We are one. We are light. We are leaving soon. At night, we lay in rows on thin mats. The sound of synchronized breathing filled the hall. I told myself it was comforting, that maybe this was what belonging sounded like. But then came the mirrors. Every evening they led us into a room lined with glass, floor to ceiling. No escape from your own reflection. We stood in silence, staring at ourselves. They told us to keep looking until the fate in the mirror no longer felt like ours, until it became them. The first time I laughed, nervous, shaky laughter. But no one else laughed. Not a sound. They just stared, and their reflections didn't blink. One night, I woke to a sound. A whisper. I opened my eyes and saw someone standing over me. It was me. The same face, the same eyes, but hollow. Like something had crawled inside and emptied it out. He leaned down, lips close to my ear, and said, "You're not real. I am." I screamed. The others rushed over, but instead of helping, they smiled. Their faces glowed with a kind of joy I couldn't understand. They told me it was a blessing, that my double had awakened, that soon I would merge. I lay there, shaking, surrounded by their smiles, and I realized the truth. I hadn't joined a family. I hadn't found love. I had walked into something else entirely, something that wanted to erase me, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. I tried to leave. The doors were locked. My clothes were gone. They handed me a robe instead. Told me the old me was dead wake. I searched for an exit, moving through the halls like a trapped animal. That's when I found the basement. Rows of bodies, lifeless. Each one dressed like me, each one with a mirror placed carefully beside it, as though the reflection mattered more than the flesh. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. They weren't ascending. They weren't transcending. They were replacing. The next night they gathered us in the mirror room. The walls glowed with candlelight, shadows stretching across the glass. My double stood across from me, eyes unblinking, as if he had been waiting for me all along. The leader raised his hands and spoke with a voice that seemed to echo inside my skull. Tonight you merge. Tonight the false self dies. The chanting began. Low, guttural. The sound of it vibrated in my chest like the walls themselves were alive. And then the mirrors shifted. They rippled like water disturbed by a stone. I watched as my reflection stepped forward out of the glass, out of the place it should have stayed. It moved toward me, steady, certain, while I stood frozen in terror. And then I ran. The hallways twisted, endless. Every corner I turned, there I was. Dozens of me, faces pale, eyes empty, smiles stretched too wide. I smashed through a door and stumbled into the woods. The night air hit me like ice, burning my lungs. Behind me, the chanting grew louder, rolling through the trees like thunder, until my chest felt like it would split open. Branches tore at my skin, roots clawed at my feet, but I didn't stop, I couldn't. At last I broke through the tree line and reached the highway. Cars roared past, the headlights blinding their drivers indifferent. I waved, screamed, begged. Finally a truck slowed. The driver leaned out, his eyes wide at the sight of me, bloodied, gasping, half mad with terror. Please, I begged, just drive. He nodded, I climbed in. Relief washed over me like a tide. For the first time, I thought I was safe. Then I saw it, in the rearview mirror, not my face. His, the hollow eyes, the too wide smile. I don't remember how I got out. I don't remember if I ever did. The nights blur together when I try to recall them. Sometimes I think I ran until the world itself gave up chasing me. Other times I think I never left that room at all. Even now, when I stand in front of a mirror, I see him, just for a second, watching, the same hollow eyes, the same too wide smile, and I wonder which one of us made it out that night.